Aloha, my friends. This is Billy Wiggly coming at you live from the 9th Island, Las Vegas, Nevada. Reminding you every day that you gotta stay positive. There's all kinds of negatives floating around. Let them go. Let them float by. Focus on the positives and maintain a positive mental attitude. Just like my friend Carlos. He called me up the other day. He goes, Billy, I need your help. I got the spreadsheet. It's not really a big, massive spreadsheet or anything. It's pretty simple. But I don't understand the Excel basics like you've always tried to tell me to learn. That's why I'm calling you, Billy. All right, Carlos. What's up? Carlos said, look, I've got this spreadsheet. Every day my boss sends me a list of customers and some parts. So I got to make this list for him where I type in the customer name, then I type in who the manager is for that customer, then I got to put in the part number, then I got to go to another worksheet, look up that part. Let's see, that was part number 13. That's part 13, master grips. Then I got to go back here and type in master grips. Then I got to put a date in there, and that's it. Is there a way that I can do this in a more effective, less time consuming, more fun way? Yes, absolutely there is, Carlos. I can think right off the bat of a few basic, easy techniques that we can apply. We can do format as a table, data validation, VLOOKUP, and date stamp. Right there, those are easy ones. Right here is our table. Right here is our data validation. Let's go with this customer. Right here is more data validation. Then the part number is going to be part number 11. That's the 500 megawatt lights. And then the date stamp, just like that. So that, my friends, is what we're going to learn today. Get ready. All right. Let's get ready. Here we go. So the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to check our source data. So we're going to go to our customers list and we're going to say, hey, look, there it is. Now, his workbook, his Excel spreadsheet has a lot more content than this. However, the same techniques that we're applying, they apply regardless of the size of content that you have. So these are some very basic Excel techniques that we're going to use, and you can just keep building on them. Remember, don't get mad, get skills. So we want to make sure that all our source data is formatted as a table. So put your marquee in the data like I have done right here, and I'm going to use a shortcut called Control T. When we go to the data tab, when we go to the insert tab, we see that we have our tables. And to format as a table, Excel right there is telling us that the shortcut is Control T. Make sure the marquee is in the data, and then we press Control T, and now we see that we can create a table. And Excel is asking us to verify where the data is and confirm whether our table has headers or not. And here we do. We have headers. So now we're just going to press OK, click, and now we have a table. We have a table. We know we have a table because we see that we now have table design contextual tool tab. So first thing we did is make sure that all the source data was formatted as a table. And that's what we've done right here. They're all formatted as a table. Then we're going to format as a table the range of data that we're working in. We could do this now or we could do it at the end. Might as well just do it now. So what's the shortcut to format as table? Control T. That's right. Yes, there's the data for the table. The table has headers. Okay, boom, there we have it. Now let's go up to our table design because we want it to look pretty. We want it to look just like the rest of the tables. And I believe this is what we were using right there. Look at that. This is called live preview. Isn't that cool? That's what's one of the little tiny things that are great about a table out of a lot of things that make formatting your data as table beneficial. So now here we have it. Everything's pretty, matching up. Okay. Formatting, step number 4 of the 7 steps to Excel success. So we've got our format as a table now, and now what we want to do is put in some data validation. Okay, cool. So to do that is, first, what is data validation? Data validation allows us to pick from a list, or allows us to ensure that the proper data, the type of data that we want, is entered. Data validation. So we're going to go right ahead and put a marquee where we want the data validation to go. And then we're going to go right up to our ribbon. I'm going to press Control F1. Control F1. That is, oops. Type that right up here for you. Control plus F1. Control F1, what it does is it opens up and closes the ribbon. Watch this. Control F1. Control F1. All right, so now we've got our marquee in the data. We've converted our range to a table, and now we're going to go to the data tab because we want to do some data validation. In the data tab, we go to the data tools. Now your Excel ribbon may look a little bit different than mine because maybe you're working on a smaller screen or a larger screen. So the ribbon will adjust. However, once you find the data tools group, it's going to look the same. It might even be just a little bit larger, a little bit smaller, but it's there in your data tab. So now we're going to go to our data tools. Here's data validation, and we can click on the drop down. We can see that we have options. We're going strictly with data validation right here. Click. Now Excel is asking us, what kind of data validation do you want? What is the validation criteria going to be? Are you going to allow any value to be entered? Which is how it is right now. You can just type whatever you want. Now, we want to pick from a list. Well, where is that list? Well, let's go to that list. So we go to our customers because it's customers. This is the customer column. So we're going to go to our customers worksheet. So we're going to click customers and we're going to select. We're not going to select the entire table. We're just selecting because we don't want the word customers to be an option. So we only select what we specifically want to be able to pick from a list. There we have it. Now we can go to our input message, and our input message is, and you don't act, these are all optional. If my friend Carlos is the only one using the spreadsheet, well, maybe he doesn't care. He doesn't need instructions. However, in the event that others are going to be using this spreadsheet, I would recommend that you put in instructions. So here we go. We can just give it a title, enter customer, and just say, please select from list only. And then we are going to go to the error alert. I just copied this because I'm going to retype it, the input message. So I go to error alert, and there's different types of errors. We can have a stop, which means if they enter anything other than what we allow from the list, it's going to give them an error message and not allow the user to proceed. We can do a warning where a warning pops up and says, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that, but you still can, which allows you to continue with a warning. Or we can just make it be an information that says, hey, look, I suggest that you pick only from the list. However, you can put in whatever you want. Just remember, the last person that did that no longer works here. No, we're just having fun. We're just having fun here. So let's go with a stop, and then we're just going to call this error, and then the error message is, please select from the list only. Thanks, because we're very polite, and let's put a little smiley face because, you know, we extra cool like that. Now let me zoom out, and I'm going to double check everything. The input message, enter customer, pre-select from the list only. The error message is a stop, And then the settings is picking from a list, and we know what list we're picking from. So now I press OK, and then now there's the data validation. Check it out, isn't that cool? Enter customer, please select from the list only. Click on the drop down, and there they are. So let's say that I try to enter one that's not on the list, like BYT for some reason. And now we're going to see an error message that appears. And look, it's that error that we selected. It's saying, please select from the list only. Thanks. Smiley face. There we go. So we can say, hey, let's cancel that, and let's pick from the list only SBA. Now we're going to go right ahead and grab the autofill handle right here, and we're going to drag it on down so that we can copy that data validation to the rest of the table. Boom, there we have it. Now, you know, we just make sure that we pick the right companies here. Da-da-da-da. All right, cool. And now for the manager, we're going to do the same thing, data validation as well. So you put our marquee where we want the data validation to go. We're going to pick from a list. Excel wants to know, where is that list? That list is the managers. So we're just going to select the names of the managers. We're not including the header. We don't want the word manager to be an option. Now we're going to go back to the input message. And the title for this is manager. Manager name. And then right here, we're going to say, same thing, please select from the list only. That's it. Now we're going to go to the error alert. We're going to make it a stop. We're going to call it an error. And we're going to please select from a list. And we're going to keep being polite because we're always polite and positive. And a smiley face, positive attitude. Press OK. And then now I can just see that, yes, that's working properly for me. Now we're just going to copy this on down. We can just double click on the autofill handle. And let's say, okay, we went with these people right here. All right. So now Carlos has to put in the part number. In this case, it's part number 12. Let's go ahead and clear all this right here. So he has to put in part number 12, and then he's got to go look up what part that is to put it into the description. So when he puts in part 12, he has to go right over here to the parts worksheet. And number 12 is safety glasses. So he just copies safety glasses, and he goes back and he puts in safety glasses. So he's looking it up. It's a vertical lookup. VLOOKUP. So we're going to do a VLOOKUP in here. Let's do that because our data that we're looking up, the parts, it's organized vertically. So we're going to do a vertical lookup. If the data was organized horizontally, like for example, here's the part, and then here's the description, and then the parts go out this way, well, then we would do a horizontal lookup. In this case, it's a VLOOKUP. So our VLOOKUP is what, where, which. What are we looking up? We're looking up the part number. Where are we looking it up? We're looking it up right here inside the parts table. And when we find the number that we're looking for, we look immediately to the right and give us the information that's in which column. It's not column A or column B. When you're doing a VLOOKUP, it's column 1, column 2. Now, if the description was actually in this column, and let's say this was a different heading, well, then this would be column 3. That's how that works. So let's go put in our data validation, or excuse me, our VLOOKUP. So I'll put in enter, and then now we can just start typing. Check this out. I'll put in V, and all the functions that start with a V appear. And then here we see the VLOOKUP. When we click on the VLOOKUP, Excel is helping us. It's telling us, hey, look, it looks for a value in the leftmost column of a table, and then returns a value in the same row from a column that you specify, 1, 2, 3, and so forth. There's another way that we can start a formula, and as you know, when you're writing a formula in Excel, you always start out with an equal sign. You're commanding Excel, hey, Excel, do this. All right. We can always go to the insert function tool right over here. insert function tool. So you put your marquee in the cell where you want your function to go, and then you just look up a function. And then right there's a recently used one, VLOOKUP, right here. You could also just look it up right there and press go, and it'll find it. And then there's an explanation for it. When you launch from the insert function tool, you get help. You can walk through. And remember, a VLOOKUP is simply what, where, which. What are we looking up? Where are we looking it up in? And which column is that piece of information in? And now the range lookup, this is optional. You can select true or false if we want an exact match or an approximate match. There's a whole course on just VLOOKUPs. And remember, there's other options. We're keeping the basic here. There's XLOOKUPs. There's all those other lookups that I told you about. And there's a whole lot of ways. That's the beauty of Excel. There's a whole lot of ways of doing the same thing with Excel. So remember, just because somebody's doing something different from how you do it doesn't mean it's wrong. We got to be open because maybe their way is more efficient. So you always got to be learning, and don't get mad. Get skills. So now let me just do it another way. This is say equals VLOOKUP. Cool. Double click. And now the lookup value. What is it that we're looking up? Well, we're looking up this part number. All right, cool. So where are we looking up that part number at? That part number, now I'm going to put in a comma. Watch this. I'm going to put in a comma, and it's going to move me to a different argument. So right here, Excel is helping me. It's saying, hey, this bold argument that you're in, that's the one that's active right now. When you put in a comma, now watch this. I'm going to go ahead and put in a comma, and now it's moving me to the next argument, the table array. Where is that part? So I just go back to the parts, and then I just select the whole table in this case. You don't have to, but in this case you can. It's different from data validation. Now we're going to go back to our data validation. Whoops, excuse me. Let me go back over here. Part. Okay, table array is this one. Cool. And then now I'm going to put in another comma, and watch. Now it's going to say, hey, when you find the lookup value, what column, comma, is it in? Is it A or B or 1 or 2? In this case, we're going to say it's 2 because we don't say A or B. It's a VLOOKUP. We're giving them the column index number, and it's column 2. And now another comma. Now we're in the range lookup. Now this is optional. Anything that's in brackets is optional. However, I want to make sure that we have an exact match. So I'm just going to double click, close my parentheses, and press enter. And there it is. See? Part 10, part 11, part 12. Our VLOOKUP is working. Now we're just going to grab the autofill handle. Excuse me. We're going to grab the autofill handle right here, and we're going to just drag it down to copy the formula, or we can just double click. Click, click, and it copies the formula down, and everything's working just fine. Isn't that cool? And what about the date? Well, for the date, it's going to be the date stamp here. Let's say that we're going to go ahead and add another row. Here's the beauty of working with a table. We're just going to grab this handle and add another row. Now you notice that there's this NA. That's because Excel is doing a VLOOKUP on what's in here. It's nothing. So it's telling us, hey, look, that's not available. Well, there's ways to fix that. All kinds of different ways. You can have it just remain blank if the items doesn't exist. Or you can have it say does not exist. Or you can leave it not available or blank. To do that, we're going to nest a function. So let's go ahead and first test everything out. So our customer is connective. The manager for this one is Smith. And the part number is part number 18. Well, that part's not available. It doesn't exist. What if it was part 14? Boom. That's the belt loop. It's there. And now for the date stamp, Carlos was saying, hey, what if I use the today function? The today function equals today. Oops, you just got to spell it right. Today. And it returns the current date format as a date. Well, that's cool. You can use that if you want today's date every day. That means that every time Carlos opens up the spreadsheet, it's going to give him today's date. In other words, the date that he's opening up that spreadsheet is the date that's going to appear there. So now, what I recommended is just do a date stamp, which is static. It won't change. So a date stamp is just this shortcut, Control plus semicolon, and that does a date stamp just like that. So now we're going to press Control semicolon, and that's a date stamp. It's static. Well, what if we had new customers other than the ones that are in here? Well, first let's take a step back, and we don't want this NA. We just wanted to say no item. Or, how about this? Let's just have it be blank. Or I can just show you all the different ways to do it. Here we go. Let me go right ahead and double click so we can see this formula that's in here. And what we want to do is give it an if and a. We're going to nest this VLOOKUP inside of an if and a. That's called nesting a function, putting a function inside of a function. So I start typing if, and when I type in the I, all the functions that begin with an I appear. Then I put in an F, so all the if functions appear. And here's if NA, and it returns a value to specify if the expression resolves to NA. Otherwise, returns the result of the expression. So if there's no result, it's going to be NA. Well, we want to change that. Now here we see the arguments. First, the value. That's the value right there. And then next, it's going to say, hey, well, what about when I put in a comma, watch it. When I put in a comma, what do you want me to do if the value result is NA? So if it's NA, we want it to just leave it blank. So if we want it to leave it blank, we got to insert a blank. And so to insert a blank, we got to put quote, just like that. And that's a blank. Now, if we wanted it to say, watch this, it's a blank. So let me go ahead and close parentheses and enter. And now you see it's blank. If I put in a part number, it appears. What if I wanted it to give me a give me a message? So we can just say discontinued, for example. Any part that's not in that list, it's discontinued. What I'm showing you here is that you got a lot of different options. Now, if you wanted a number to appear as a result, then you wouldn't put it in quotations. When you want the results that appear as a result of a formula, when you want to display a number as a result, you don't use quotation marks. Everything else goes in quotation marks. So now I can just press entered, and now when there's no result in there, when it's blank, it'll just say discontinued. So you have a lot of options. So now let's say that we want to insert a new customer. So to insert a new customer, we're going to go right to our customers list, which we format as a table. And then we're just going to go right within the table, select a row, and press Control plus to insert a row. And here we enter our new customer, BYT, enter. Now when we look back at our data validation and we click on the drop down, there's BYT available to us. Isn't that cool? That's the beauty of working in tables. So let's say we're going to go ahead and add a new manager. I'm going to insert a row within the table. So I'm just going to go Control plus. And this one is a Jones, enter. And we got a new part. So we're going to insert a row within the table, Control plus. And I'm going to say this is part number 15. And it is a gloves. just like that. And then, we can just rearrange it, sort smallest to largest, keep it in order if that's what you like. Now, when you go back to your data validation, you've got the new manager, Jones, included. So let's say, hey, this one is going to be BYT. The manager for this one is this new person, Jones. This part right here is actually part, what was that new part? Of 15. There we go. Part number 15. And then now, what was the shortcut to put in that date stamp? Control, semicolon. Boom. There you have it. Just like that. Isn't that awesome? Woohoo! Now look, my friends, here's another beauty of working in a table. As long as we're in the table, you see our header row right here? As long as our marquee is in the table, like we have right here, when I start scrolling, look at the headers. Because we're in a table, it's going to keep showing us the headers regardless. Now I'm out. Now we see the column headers A, B, C. And now we see the headers for our data. That is the beauty of working in a table. And I encourage you, my friends, to keep your data in tables. I encourage you also to stay positive. Mainly, keep on learning. Remember, I love you. And most of all, don't get mad. Get skills. Aloha.